Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Well, this morning my guest is Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo. A fine morning to you, sir. Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo is chair of the Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Lagos State Council. And so it follows that we're going to be talking some labor matters. So, you know, we're not wasting any time, because I imagine that there'll be quite a bit to be said about this in between you and our viewers at home. Now that the president has okayed the suspension of withdrawal of subsidy until further notice, from the point of view of TUC, NLC, but it's TUC I have in front of me, from the point of view of TUC, it's all good. There's nothing to talk about anymore. Do you see it like that?
Good morning once again, sir. Thank you for inviting us, inviting me to the studio this morning to talk about this. Well, it may appear all is good. What we want, we've gotten at this moment. However, we must also not lose sight of the main issues around subsidy removal. You know, subsidy in itself is a challenge that has been with us for some time now, for decades, if you like. You know, we've always had, for over 3 decades that I know, over 30 years, Labour had always gone to the roads, protested against the increase in price of petroleum products, and it's always been the same. You come back, it's improved, it's increased a little, you fight again, on and on. So we think we've gotten to that point where we need to take a different approach and actually look at the issues holistically and find a lasting solution to it. However, at this point where we are as labor movement is, even if government is going to look at all those issues and prefer solutions, and we can get out of even a subsidy, this is not the time to remove subsidy because of the impact it will have on Nigerians, particularly on workers whose income is fixed.
Which is indeed the position, quite frankly, of government now. Apart from the fact that they said that the president, you know, was outvoted on the matter within his own council. In other words, the president would have stuck with the plan, but he was persuaded that this is not a good time. In fact, it's a bad time. The hardship will be almost unbearable. So that must have swayed the president to say, okay, let it be a collective decision, so be it. So what you've just said, apparently it was presented to the president and he agreed, and therefore they let go of the matter. But as you are saying, well, there still are other issues, in the sense that what brought about this whole matter to where we are at now. That's the point you are making.
Yeah, if you remember, before they came to talk about suspending it until further notice, they first said it's going to be removed February. Then we're hearing, okay, maybe it will be done in June. So the question is, who even came up with the idea? Why would that person think of that at this moment?
Okay.
Are they not Nigerians? Are they not seeing what is happening in the land? Then have they forgotten that there was supposed to be a protest in September 2020, which was suspended at the end of meeting between the government and Labour? And there were certain understandings, certain agreements. There were certain preconditions for deregulation. Have they met those conditions? The answer is no, they haven't. So who in government woke up to say, despite the agreement with Labour, despite the preconditions that should be met, which have not been met, those conditions will have created some cushion, will have ameliorated the impact on people generally. Despite not meeting those conditions, who is now talking about removing subsidy at this time? So those are the things that we're talking about. How did we even get here? Do we have aliens amongst us in government? Who is even thinking about that? And that's why Labour had to say, you know what, if you try this at this time, there will be repercussions, because we cannot, you know, be like this.
Exactly. Yeah, Labour, NLC, but it's like almost as if, well, as you know, the meeting was called, well, I don't know if it was called, but the Senate president was quite influential in, I think it was an initiative of his, whatever, but they were there and they made these, you know, observations and decided that whatever might be the merits as seen by, the authorities in going on in saying that this has to be done. Remember, everybody was ready, NNPC, and all of that. But suddenly, almost at the 12th hour, they've now said, we will stop because things will get very, very bad. Inflation, etc. There still is a matter of the lack of employment in the country. The unemployment statistics are nothing to be envious of. And so they decided, I would have thought, maybe you would have said, for once, government is listening.
Well, we can say government is listening, but we are not exactly satisfied with what they've done. Because what they should be telling Nigerians right now is what they are doing with our refineries. They should be telling Nigerians how Nigeria will transit from importing refined products to refining adequately within the country. Because when we refine adequately, it's going to create more jobs for Nigerians. And again, whether there is subsidy or there is no subsidy, it is still Nigeria money going outside to import. So you can do a lot more if you keep your money within the economy and grow the economy.
And there are those who have observed that the subsidies are benefiting some people
more than
the masses.
However,
before you continue, please, let me take Remy. Remy is on the line. I think he wants to contribute to it. Good morning, Remy.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Please go ahead. What do you want to say?
Good morning, sir. I just want to point out something.
Sure.
It's very critical. The fact that the subsidy is benefiting some people and the government tend to remove it without necessarily consider the impact upon the people is a sign of insensitivity. I had the labor man there asking a critical question. Who came on with that idea at this critical time? Such a person should be asked, what do you want people to feel at this moment? How do you want them to survive at this moment? You pay the salary at 30,000. Even some governors could not pay their money. Money we are talking about. And yet, things are skyrocketing in the market. And government who's supposed to think about how to make life better for people, now the first thing is, let's remove the subsidy, which we know that will cause a boomerang over all sectors of the economy. It's a sign of insensitivity. I think the government should think deeper and do the needful, especially make the refineries work. Let them work. There's no need of talking about anything about subsidy. The moment the refineries are working, subsidy is moved automatically. That's the best way to go.
Indeed.
So I think that's my own thought about this issue.
Thank you very much, Remy. That, in addition to what you were saying, this has ever since the news broke, last week or whatever. That's what people have been saying. That look, why aren't we concentrating on refineries, getting our own refineries? Generally speaking, the idea must, at least by the action, I think it all comes down to coming to the realization that it was a bad idea. Of course, there are those who are also saying that they had to take it a bit low because of 2023. Don't want to cause too many problems, but maybe those are just, maybe one shouldn't be uncharitable to go as far as that. Look, no. They're looking at the welfare of the people because they anchored this on the people.
See, we are just a peculiar people with peculiar challenges. Governments need to really be careful the way they think.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, but everybody's interested in this subject. Ada has called in from Jos, so let me take Ada from Jos. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning, Mr. Ayori. This is my first time to speak to you this year.
Indeed, compliments of this season. Thank you very much.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Good morning to your guest there, the TVC man.
Comrade Ekundayo.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm happy to see Comrade Ekundayo because I believe in TUC.
Yes.
I didn't say anything, though. I said I believe in TUC. Let me tell you something. We have to fix these refineries. It's true they have done something to remove that subsidy, but it's not over until it's over. Just as I said there, we have to fix the refineries. Between now and the 18 months, the President Buhari has now is proposing 18-month extension. So he has to now send an amendment to the National Assembly for the PIA. Because now it's like shooting ourselves on the foot now. The PIA, is stipulated there, is there. But just because they've not been telling us the truth, that's why they had a problem. There's a lot of gap in information, The PIA can say, all I was wondering, I said, how are they going to do this subsidy thing when it is in the PIA? But I'm happy they are addressing that issue now. So the problem now is like, President Buhari is just like, I'm sorry to say this, it's like he has now a soldier in the battlefield. He just deserts the battlefield. Not he has shifted it to the next administration. That's what it means now. So all this is to still continue, except we refine here. Even those Niger Delta people, they are accusing of illegal refining. Let them integrate them in the system. If they legalize what they are doing, they could also help. We must have a solution to this problem. We cannot continue running away. I think this morning I saw the screaming headline: 3 trillion. And the amount they said we are considering is not even correct. Put it anyway. Let them go and look into it. The National Assembly said they are looking into it. By the time they set up that committee will not come up with anything till 18 months time. So this thing is politically motivated because of the elections. So when they win again, what happens? All the elections of this country.
Thank you very much for calling in, Ada. The 18 months, the next 18 months that we were talking about before coming on air, after the indefinitely business, the way Ada sees it is that it's kicking the ball down the road for the next administration to handle the chestnut, so to speak, rather than pulling it out of the fire himself.
That was what I was about saying, that government needs to be very, very careful what we put out there. You see, when the news first came that it's been postponed for the next 18 months, we don't want to join issues politically with anybody. We're a labor center, and we just speak to issues. We have no business with politics. But when you make such pronouncement, people are going to add 1 and 2 together. 18 months from now is July next year. May 29 is handover date. So people will start to look at different things. Instead of talking about a timeline like that, maybe what we should be talking about is, these are the things that we need to do before we remove subsidy. And these are the impact these things will have on the economy, on the lives and livelihood of Nigerians. And when we do this, this is how we can then remove subsidy. And this is what we're going to do with that savings in terms of developmental activities, and this is how we're going to monitor it. The overlay of that, why Nigerians will kick against subsidy removal, is also the lifestyle of our leaders. See, the flamboyance you find around government does not speak to the fact that, if you look at things critically, Nigeria is not a rich country as we are today. If you look at the infrastructure that we ought to provide, that is not provided. If you think about the trillions of dollars that you will need to create rail line and roads that need to interconnect around the country. We've been talking about the coastal roads for ages. It has not happened. There are many things that need to be provided. Do we have the fund to do them? But if we keep living like this in governance, Nigerians don't even get the picture that we are not where we're supposed to be. So it is difficult for you to now say you want to pass this burden, this bitter pill to Nigerians, when government is still living like this, as if Nigeria is one kind of El Dorado, a rich place to be. So that disconnect will always make it difficult for people to even buy the idea of subsidy removal. But if you look at the hope or the content of it, you look at the downstream sector, the petroleum downstream sector, you look at what we're doing. We export crude oil, we import petrol, majorly diesel, kerosene, jet fuel. But if you look at all the other products that come from crude oil, ranging from fuels, different kind of fuels, to even pharmaceuticals, to plastics, even the petroleum cake that you get, pet coke, which can further be processed for you to get nitrogen fertilizer. You look at that, you now look at the impact of that on agriculture. You look at what we're doing per per square area in terms of agriculture compared to other countries. You look at the opportunities that we have in our hands that we can make use of, which we are not making use of. Then you now ask yourself, why can't we refine adequately and make adequate use of this entire value chain? What is government doing with this? That, for us, is the real question we should be asking. What are we doing with our refineries? Now we're looking at, okay, how do you do a proper revamp of the refineries as against the political maintenance that we're doing before?
Well, yes, let's take good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for calling in.
Yes, good morning, Uncle Yori, and greetings to the man from TUC.
Comrade Ekundayo.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. Yes, Uncle Yori, I spoke about this subject yesterday, that we are suffering in the midst of plenty. It shouldn't be so. What I want to appeal to the man from TUC this morning is that he should create the narrative and don't allow this cabal to continue to impoverish Nigerians under the guise of importation of fuel. From the way, if you look at it deeply, you will see that there is a group of people that do not want this type of subsidy regime to ever end. If you are spending 3 trillion naira for subsidy in a year, how much does it take to build a refinery? Even if it's 10 trillion, in 2 years or 3 years, wouldn't you be able to build a refinery? That one is not in the picture. What I would like the Labour to do, because especially the TUC, they have the power, they have the influence, and they have the people's support. Let them change the narrative by calling on the government to build a refinery. They should not be talking about to remove subsidy or not to remove subsidy, whether it is 18 months time or all is to prolong the corruption in that subsidy concept.
Okay.
Why the government is trying to remove the corruption in the subsidy, Labour should change the narrative by saying that there must be a refinery. In 2023 budget, there must be a provision for the commencement of building a refinery.
Okay, all right.
No man can build it. Why can't the government build it?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. George, for calling in. What do you like? How do you see that idea? Because it stands to reason that if we don't, the refineries are not working, and that is an embarrassing fact. At least at the capacity that they need to be. Build a refinery, as Mr. George has just said, and a lot of this will disappear. But maybe there are other challenges. Maybe you can't just build a refinery like that. But how say you to the suggestion that we should take the whole conversation and begin to focus it on providing a refinery, never mind trying to remove corruption from comatose refineries?
Thank you very much for bringing it to the main point that we are talking about now. You see, where we are now, or what was happening before now, was turnaround maintenances that were given to political affiliates. And you know what usually happens, as we've all seen. But where we are now is to get the refineries revamped by the OEM, the original equipment manufacturer, who knows the in and out. There was an assessment, as we got report within the union, that an assessment was done, what needs to be done has been identified, and a competent, the OEM has recommended a competent representative that will do it. And the arrangement on ground is for it not to pass through bureaucracy and bottleneck of politics and governance, so that the refineries can actually be revamped to the adequate point of of the capacity. If that is monitored,
as opposed to outsourcing it,
we as a union, Penjasa and Openg, are monitoring how that is unfolding, because we're also Nigerians. We're not just thinking about today, we're thinking about the future of the land, our own children, what will happen to them.
I'm going to come back so that you can develop it, because Mazi Okorafo in Arochukwu has called in. Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, my comrade.
Good morning, sir.
The problem we are facing is that we make a lot of policies, very sweet, everything, but poor implementation. What does it take the federal government, this modular refinery, All those boys that have been arrested by DSS and SSS and whether security, can't the government give them the license, modernize that their mother requirement for them, so that they will produce all these things for us? All those oil producers. That is very simple. It's not that we don't want to, because we get a lot from them. The merchants in NNPC, as long as the merchants in NNPC continue existing, my brothers and sisters in this country and abroad, you cannot stop all these issues of subsidy and nonsense, because the merchants are the Nigerian problems. Now ask yourself, don't the NNPC have research and development? Can they research? What is the job of research? When you go to university to read research and this is what I said. If you need to research ahead, what are they doing? Or they just employ people to answer their okay, they are researching, they are doing nothing. That is rubbish. Look, if you want to ask yourself, how many can they research to tell us how many we consume every day, every month? Now, danger is ahead. One, Russia and Ukraine. If they Russia blow up the whole system there between Ukraine, my brother, it's very hard for us to arrest that oil at the high sea, because that war will create a lot of problems for the high sea. It will affect Nigeria. Do we have reserves? We don't have. America is having serious problems in the oil, but they are making use of the reserves now in the US. But Nigeria, do we have reserves? We don't have. So let us come back and face the reality of life. Put our refineries in job. The motor refineries, give those boys that to start operation. Thank you very much, have a president in Lagos.
Thank you very much, Mazi. So again, confluent with your position.
Yeah, just as Mazi has also said, part of the position of TUC right now, the conditions are revamping the refineries, get them to work adequately, licensing more modular refineries, policing the borders, make sure that our products, even if they are cheaper internally, cannot go to neighboring countries, and create palliatives in terms of transportation for people, because you don't want to put a high price of petrol on the transportation as it is now. It will have a ripple effect on all other commodities, because right now the major mode of transportation is by the road. So we've looked at all that, and those are the positions right now.
So whether now or in 18 months, as is being now spoken of, is still the same. It's going to come to this.
Exactly. So that's why I said,
so just
talking
like
about the timeline
road
is not really the issue. It is fixing the issues upon which this is precedent. That is what really matters. Now, talking about the refineries themselves, we can see that, government, it's always been said that government has no business in business. Government run the refineries. We've seen the challenges in itself where we are, but the same government is involved in the upstream. The question is, the upstream is still working. How is it done? You find a joint venture arrangement where technically competent operators run the asset, the facility in the upstream. That's why we can export crude without any issue, steadily. It is run by the IOCs, by local companies, but who are technically competent to run the operations. Why can we not, in the end, bring that same formula into the downstream to run the refineries? Find the technically competent companies, the operator, to work with the government. Most of the JVs are 60% for the government, 40% for the operators. Use the same thing for the refineries.
Why is it difficult? What do you think?
Well, we'll go back to the political will of the government.
Okay.
We'll go back to who has interest in what. Why are they stalling such?
Again, we got another call on this subject from Mr. Joshua in Irewolide. Good morning, Mr. Joshua.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Compliments of the season.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy with your guest. He has the capacity to handle everything, so I'm not going to be technical.
Comrade Ekundayo,
I'll only be philosophical this morning.
Okay.
Uncle Yori, it is time for the light to shine on Nigeria. The president, I will use you, Uncle Yori, to speak to the president of Nigeria. We appreciate him for the fact that, I can say for his 8 years, we've never had this crisis of queuing up for fuel. He solved that problem. This same president, when he was military head of state, refineries were working. And when he came in as a politician, he said he will make sure that the refineries work, and gave himself the assignment to be the minister for petroleum for quite a lot of time. My dear president, bequeath to Nigeria the legacy of us having local refineries in this country. Mr. President, do it. We have a little bit of stable electricity. I think he's working on it. There is no cabal that is stronger than the president, the executive president, chief of whatever in Nigeria. No cabal. President, bequeath to your children and generations to come the ability for us to refine our own fuel locally. Uncle Yori, I use you as a voice to him and all the people that are with him. It will be well with them and they will do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua. I can't add anything to that since you were exercising your right and you were speaking directly to our president, your president, my president, everybody's president. Okay, we'll take a break. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back. We'll continue this conversation with Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo, Chairman, TUC Congress of Nigeria, Lagos State Council. And of course, we'll continue taking your calls. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. I'm having this lively discussion, I think, because you see, when it comes to fuel subsidy or anything that is going to affect the Nigerian's pocket, no matter who you are, you know, well, I shouldn't say no matter who you are. There are those who are saying that, look, you take it if you like, carry the thing to 2,000 naira later. There are those who will continue to be able to buy it, but those are not the people we're talking about. We're talking about 98%, if not 99% of people whose life is going to be turned upside down if indeed what was being brought on is brought on. I know that there are knowledgeable economists, technocrats that are still arguing about the matter. It's not as if all of them are on one side. But you say that, look, it's a thing about our posterity. People can't seem to understand the logic. I think you started off the question by saying, what were they thinking to even bring it on and then later on cancel it, say, okay, we kicked the ball down the road. They didn't put it like that. They didn't say they kicked the ball down the road, but we'll postpone for another 18 months. Before you come in, Comrade Yakub, good morning to you, sir. And indeed, compliments of the season.
You gave me a comrade this morning. Yes, accepted because you have a senior comrade in the studio. So, good morning, my comrade.
Good morning, sir.
Some of us that support the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, we support the government. Why? Because of all what we promised. Although in terms of electricity, I hardly complain here in Zokwemu. I don't know any other area.
Yeah, it's gotten better.
In fact, the electricity it has been so improved. So we like that. In terms of security, they should be doing more. Although one of your journalists, the one that I respect most, Babajide Otitoloju, did one interview sometimes ago. I watched it in a journalist hangout. If you see amount of hammer tank, amount of hardware weapon that government have already bought our military now, and then it starts to go. I think all these bandits and the Boko Haram of thing, it will be a thing of past. Also, this topic, if Nigerian government want to remove the subsidy, I said it one time ago. If they don't make Nigerian refinery work, they dare not do that.
Thank you.
Because if they do that, they remove the subsidy, everything will go. In fact, the landlord will tell you that the petroleum price is now selling 600 naira thereabouts. And hereby increasing your house rent. What do? You do nothing, because you will say that when the petroleum price increase, everything that he bought in market, he also increase. What do? So the issue now is this: if they postpone it to 18 months, are they going to fix a refinery before that 18 months? That is the first question. If they don't fix that refinery to 18 months, when the 18 months come, they should postpone it to another 18 months for them to fix that refinery. Because if they fail to do that, I'm saying incoming government, I believe, and then I pray, the person I want comes to that power. I know if that person that had in mind comes to that power, he will surely do it. He will surely do, because I know the kind of person he is. I don't want to mention it now, but when the time comes, I would rather mention the person's name. So, if I want Nigerian government, the labor, quote and unquote, I'm sorry to use these words, my comrade. They should not go to Abuja this time around and collect the envelope. They should stick with their word. Don't let them them remove the subsidy now. So we cannot buy the tuber of yam 5,000 naira for one, because they dare remove the subsidy, everything will just skyrocket and go up.
Indeed.
God Almighty bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, and you too. Really, every one of our callers, starting from Ada, just Mr. Joshua, now Comrade Yakub. Of course, actually, I was just joking. Yakub is not a comrade. That is why he laughed when I gave him the title.
We would accept him as a comrade. Because I really love the way he has put it. I mean, we need to have adequate refining capacity before you can talk about removing the subsidy. 18 months down the line, 20 months, whatever time they want to put. If you don't have adequate refining capacity, what next?
What next?
So we shouldn't be talking about
you keep on postponing
capacity.
Exactly. You keep on postponing.
So that's why I love what he said. It's not about the timeline. It's about what needs to be done. And we can't continue with the idea of a Vision 2000, Vision 2020. At the time comes, the things you want to do, they are not done. Is it about the vision? Is it about the timeline? Or doing what you need to do?
So from what you've been saying, comrade, it's like, look, there's scant, very precious little rest in all of this, because it's just for now. So what do we do in 18 months' time? First of all, it was indefinitely, but then I may be in compromise to the president, because the initial report we got was that the president wasn't down with the whole idea of removing of not removing subsidy anymore. But maybe this is some sort of a compromise that, okay, look, in 18 months. But then what's the difference between now and 18 months? It's probably what you are talking about now. Maybe it isn't an impossible, quest to actually get a refinery. Who was it, Mr. George, who mentioned that if an individual, admittedly the richest man in Africa, but if an individual is not as rich as the country, he's not as rich as the country, rich as he is. So that's another thing that people can't understand. That what's the foot dragging about this whole matter, if indeed the ordinary man out there is the focus?
There's a little possible twist, even in the private refineries. Okay. Even in Dangote refinery that people are shouting about. Think about it this way. If Dangote has to spend 100 naira to refine a liter of petrol, and you say he must sell at 80 naira, where does he get the 20 naira difference from? From government bureaucracy, from the bottlenecks of government, from all the things that we know happen around. We don't talk about that on air. How will it work? People should also bear in mind Dangote refinery is situated in a free zone with access to international waters. If the local price isn't conducive, I don't know what's going to happen, but will he consider taking it out instead?
As a businessman.
As a businessman.
Since it's not about sentiment.
Yes. Because even the refinery that he has put together, I don't want to believe that there are, he doesn't have loans from wherever to make it happen. He has to service the loans. He has to pay back. Now this is his business, purely business.
Okay.
Now,
sorry, I got your point, but I wanted to bring in Comrade Ayo in Oshogbo. Good morning, Comrade Ayo.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Quite amazed, sir. Uncle Yori, let me join my voice in the debate on subsidy issue. You see, it is quite sad that Nigeria, a giant of Africa, is working on just refineries. We have said that a state in America has over 20-something refineries. It is sad. And again, they are trying to remove and put burden on the ordinary Nigeria who had already been living already before this. Because if you go out to market, yesterday I was trying to buy this kit for my son. The woman said it's 2 for 50 naira, and I look at what they are selling for that 25 naira. I shake my head. I said, where exactly are we really going? That is the situation we have now. And if subsidy is removed now, where do you want the ordinary Nigerians to go? Now we are banking on Dangote refinery. everybody is talking about Dangote refinery. A single individual is building a refinery, whereas a giant of Africa, a brother to all other African countries, is banking on a refinery built in the 1960s or 70s. Every time we hear about turnaround maintenance, money being expended, we need to keep tight. We need to come back to the round table. It is not about the ordinary people. It's about those who are ruling us. Some people are benefiting immensely from the corruption going on in the petroleum sector, and nobody is doing anything about it. We kept on believing it is just a normal norm. We've accepted corruption as a normal norm, because if you go into it, if you don't do it, even your family will be blaming you. That when Lagbaja was there, we know how much he made. Even if you want to do the good.
Yeah.
So these are the problems. We have institutional problems. We have character problems. How do we marry this thing and resolve this? I am not a prophet of doom, optimistic that Nigeria will get it right. But in getting it right, every hand must be on deck. It must trickle down from the top. So God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Ayo, calling in from Osogbo. Let me take a pause here, Comrade. I just need to check with my colleague Ayo Zubakun, who is in Ekiti right now, because the APC governorship primaries are actually in progress now. We need to touch base with him and, you know, see where we are. That is technology allowing. Ayo wants to join us via Zoom. Let me check him out. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning, Yori.
Ah, excellent. Okay, excellent. Well, things look a bit cool there, but can you tell us what's going on there? Well, I mean, we know that the governorship primaries, but is it an event for later on, or is it in progress right now?
Yori, I can tell you that primaries, we don't know the fate that might befall it at the end of the day, because the People's Democratic Party actually had their own yesterday.
That's right.
The one that produced the BC color one, and they did indirect primaries. We were there, and Udom Emmanuel did a very good job, and it went well as far as we observed. But this morning, waking up, we discovered that the All Progressive Congress, they say they want to have their own as direct primaries. That is 132 members across 16 local governments and 177 ward also will be coming out to exercise their franchise. But around 9 a.m., 7 of the aspirants, they came together, led by Senator Kweyemi Bamidele and Engineer Dayo Adeyeye, to Senator Dayo Adeyeye, to tell us that they are no longer interested in whatever is going to happen today, that from what they've seen so far, they've lost confidence in the exercise. It's a sham. That wherever it's happening, they called the electoral officer who's meant to be the governor of Jigawa State, that's Governor Badiru, that they called him for a meeting, and Badiru has refused to see them. And I spoke to Bamidele Faparusi, Opeyemi Bamidele. I spoke to some of the aspirants, and they're now saying that there's a kind of undue advantage to be a certain candidate backed by Governor Kayode Fayemi. And on the flip side of it, coming to town, I now discovered that people actually came out in their units to vote, that they were actually voting. But like St. Michael's School that I went in Ekiti here, I now discovered that, oh, they were voting, but there was only one particular candidate they were voting for. They didn't have agents of other candidates and aspirants. They didn't have people that would count the votes. Before I said Jack Robinson, people filed on one line, another line. Before you could say anything, they just came up that, oh, 1,200 people have voted in this polling unit, and they returned a winner. So I went to another polling unit in Ekiti, the same thing. So it's very interesting. But I saw a live video by a colleague. Okay, Yori?
Yeah. Well, you say it's interesting. I mean, I imagine what APC as a party will say about what's going on in Ekiti.
I saw a live video
by a colleague that's Moju Jamiu, that's in Igbimo Ekiti. Igbimo Ekiti is just some 30-40 minutes away from Ado Ekiti.
Yeah.
Now, in that polling unit of Moju Jamiu, I saw the things that should happen in Ado Ekiti. Ideally, I saw representative of Senator Okoyemi Bamidele in the polling unit. I saw a representative of Mr. Okoyemi Faparusi, and I saw the third candidate that Bao that is meant to. I saw them, and people now queued behind their aspirants, and they were counting. So I feel that this is the ideal situation. In most polling units that I visited in Ado Ekiti, there's no presence of other aspirants. That's my worry. So everybody was just returning bow, and bow. So I don't know, maybe by the time they collate from the 16 local government, but don't forget I told you earlier that 7 out of the 8 aspirants have rejected the outcome of whatever might be to this exercise. I don't know what the All Progressive Congress as the party led by Governor Baderu of Jigawa State will be saying at the end of the day. We are waiting for them. They are going to be one coalition center, local government coalition center, and ultimately they'll come to Ado Ekiti here, and in Ado Ekiti here, they will now actually combine everything. If their protest is going to hold and this is going to be shifted to another day, we'll see. If they are going to hold their ground, whatever happened in all the local governments is what they will take. We are going to see at the end of the day. Yori?
Indeed. Ayo, thank you very much. That's such a comprehensive report. I don't even want to ask anything because there's much more that's going to be happening, and I'm sure TVC News will be updating us as we go along. But I'm happy that we could touch base with you and find out what the lie of the ground is. Direct primaries, by force and by fire, if that is what is wanted. Thank you very much. That's our man, Ayo Ozubaku there in Ekiti, giving us something of a surprise report, but it is what it is. TVC News will be all over it right through the day, and we'll keep you posted as to what developments are. Back and indeed on the home stretch with Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo, Chairman TUC, Lagos State Council. The point that both a lot of viewers from home and your very good self you've been talking about is that it's not yet uhuru with this whole matter of the refineries and well, it's not yet uhuru with the whole matter of removing subsidy. You can't remove subsidy is the loudest voice. The loudest voice is saying you can't remove subsidy now. What do you want to become of the ordinary Nigerian? But we've heard in the lead up to where we are at now that it's an economic matter. We can't afford it. But can we afford to remove it? If we can't afford subsidy, can we afford to remove it? That's the situation that we have. And then the interesting concept of 18 months. Give us 18 months more seems to be what has been said now. So what's going to happen in 18 months? You, tongue-in-cheek, said, kick it further down the road or deliver, for instance, a refinery, or at least a good idea. I have someone else from, Akwa Ibom? Patrick. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning, the analyst.
Yes.
Nice having you this morning.
Thank you very much for calling in.
My opinion on this issue is, we have a problem of unemployment and the sleeping economy. And I know too well that the government alone, cannot provide all the employment we need. And we also know that the energy, is the driving force of every modern economy. So I think it is going to be dangerous for us to allow the two major sources of energy to simultaneously go higher and becoming unaffordable. From solar, because already solar is too expensive for Nigerians to afford. So I'm looking at fuel and electricity now.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, energy is the driving force of the modern economy. We cannot afford to allow the two major sources of energy to go higher. So I think what I suggest government should do for now, is to rather look into improving electricity. And by improving electricity, opening up our border, to restrict lifting of fuel to some of the African neighboring countries. With that, we will realize that not less than 40 to 45% of the fuel product we bring in is not really needed. So we can decide to cut down, on that percentage. And if you check the subsidy amounts on such percentage, that will make a great improvement instead of removing subsidy completely. Or if they want to remove subsidy, let them improve on electricity. Make us have stable electricity and affordable electricity so that our economy will not go completely.
All right, then.
I don't want to mention a refinery here because by my calculations, I'm not very sure. I just think a refinery will only ensure us of availability but not affordability because, oil has a global price, which is about $65 now. And if you convert that, that's about 30,000 or 32,000, if I'm not making mistake, the naira. That means a barrel of oil could go for about 30 to 32,000 naira. And if you break that down, divided by 159, which is how many liters that is contained in a barrel of oil, that will let you know that a liter of crude oil already will be supplied to refinery at about 210 naira or 200 naira, very short of the figure. So that is why I don't want to talk about refinery because I don't think refinery will about affordability.
So you do very much. Well, I want to thank you very much. Sorry for interrupting you, Patrick, but I want to thank you very much for calling in and laying that out for us. What are your thoughts there? Because I had heard since this conversation started when the news first broke that look, if people are talking and thinking that the Dangote refinery is going to be much up, are they going to tell the man how to sell, what price to sell at? Which goes back to the point that you are making that it's a business. It's not going to be run on sentiment and emotions.
Yeah. I think I heard two things from what Patrick said now, affordability and accessibility. Yes, if we have adequate capacity, it speaks to accessibility immediately. It can also speak to affordability. Now, look at it this way.
If you give Dangote a special price? Because
if we have our borders well policed, that we don't have a product like he also alluded to, escaping our borders to neighboring countries, you can decide how much the crude oil gets to the local refineries, which in turn decides how much you sell within the country, if you can police the borders adequately. Now, the overlay of that, which we probably are not looking at right now, is that what we do, whether there is subsidy or subsidy is removed, it is still Nigeria's wealth going outside to buy this product. Now, what do? There are citizens of other countries that earn from what we buy, that earn salaries, while your own citizens are there looking for jobs. There are other, other auxiliary businesses that will run around the refineries. These are things that keep economy moving. So that is the important part that we should also be looking at.
I want to thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo, TUC Lagos, for coming on this morning and letting us know what you feel. I don't know if to say what TUC feels. Is this a TUC position? Yeah, the position of TUC as communicated in the communique is what we have talked about. Okay. Adequate refining capacity in country, licensing of more modular refineries, policing the borders, creating palliatives for over 40 million plus Nigerians who are living in poverty, then transportation alternatives. See what you can do for Nigerians. Yes. Thank you very much. Before we talk about removing subsidy. So there you go. That's it, Comrade Gbenga Ekundayo. And that brings us to the end of the program today. Please join us tomorrow. And Ayo Zubagun, thanks to Ayo Zubagun for coming in and in the middle of the program and telling us that, quite frankly, he's yet to make out exactly what is happening at the APC governorship primaries. But no problem there. TVC News will keep you posted on what's going on per second, as we say locally. Join us tomorrow, please, for a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folare. Bye-bye for now.